Elizabeth Taylor's old empty house, 7 husbands, sad death, and how much money she had. Behind the purple eyes that made everyone love her was a life full of amazing highs and lows. Elizabeth Taylor wasn't just a Hollywood queen. She was like a powerful storm that lived so strongly it amazed and broke everything around her. Today, we're going to tell you the most shocking parts of Taylor's incredible life. From her empty house that still stands like a reminder of lost fame to the 7 times she got married that made news all over the world to her last sad days fighting sickness while having tons of money. What you're about to learn isn't the nice, clean version of Taylor's story. This is the real, honest truth about a woman who collected husbands like she collected diamonds, who almost died many times before death finally won, and who made so much money there still counting it years after she died. The empty house you'll see tells its own story. A falling apart reminder of how high this famous star once was. Get ready for the real truth about Elizabeth Taylor's amazing life. A journey of winning, sadness, and too much of everything that changed what it meant to be a Hollywood star. From child star to Hollywood legend, Taylor's fast rise to fame. Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor burst into America's attention as the child star of National Velvet in 1944, but no one could have guessed the amazing journey that would happen next. Born in London to American parents in 1932, Taylor had something the camera couldn't ignore. A haunting beauty focused around purple eyes so unusual, people first thought it was a camera trick. "I never planned to be an actress," Taylor once said. "I was just a little girl who happened to have purple eyes and got lucky." That look turned into a career lasting 60 years, 2 big awards, and changing from child star to the world's most famous woman. By age 18, she'd already married her first husband. By 26, she'd married her 3rd. The pattern started early. Taylor lived at a speed few people could understand or keep up with. What made Taylor different wasn't just her beauty, but her willingness to take chances. When other stars played it safe, she took on shocking roles. In movies like Suddenly Last Summer and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, acting so real it shocked people used to Hollywood's perfect image. "I don't pretend to be a regular housewife," she once famously said, and nothing about Elizabeth Taylor would ever be normal. Not her loves, not her losses, and definitely not her homes. But as her star rose to incredible heights, trouble was already starting in the house that would later stand empty. A quiet witness to the amazing rise and fall of Hollywood's most magnetic star. The empty Bel Air house, a crumbling reminder of lost greatness. High in the fancy hills of Bel Air stands a house frozen in time. Elizabeth Taylor's old home, now a rotting shadow of what it used to be. This 7,000 square foot trophy home, bought when she was most famous, has sat mostly untouched since her death, becoming Hollywood's most spooky real estate mystery. The house's neglect is even more shocking given its history. This wasn't just any celebrity home. It was the background for Taylor's most crazy years, including her twice-failed marriage to Richard Burton. These walls saw legendary parties where Hollywood royalty, political leaders, and even real royalty mixed in rooms decorated with priceless art and actual thrones Taylor had brought from European castles. Elizabeth didn't just decorate. She created kingdoms, remembered a frequent visitor. Each room was designed to make her feel like the queen she believed herself to be. The home's most infamous feature: a custom-built, climate-controlled vault specifically designed to house her jewelry collection, remains intact but empty. Its fancy security system long turned off. The 72-foot swimming pool, where she once entertained presidents, now contains gross water, surrounded by cracked marble and overgrown gardens. Perhaps most creepy is Taylor's bedroom suite, reportedly left almost untouched after her death. Her monogrammed sheets still on the bed. bottles of custom-mixed perfume still arranged on her vanity, according to rare visitors allowed inside. Her handwritten notes can still be found in drawers, creating a disturbing time capsule of a life suddenly stopped. Why has this prime real estate worth an estimated $30 million, even in its broken state, been left to slowly rot? The answer lies in the complicated legal battles that have raged since despised. Since Taylor's death, with her fortune split between her children, grandchildren, and her extensive charity foundations, ownership fights have kept the property stuck, neither sold nor fixed, just slowly crumbling as time passes. "It's like Miss Taylor herself is refusing to let go," remarked a neighboring property owner. "The house seems to be fading away in stages, just as she did." But if the house's condition is shocking, it's nothing compared to the romantic hurricane that was Elizabeth Taylor's legendary love life. 7 husbands, countless scandals, Taylor's stormy love life. Elizabeth Taylor's romantic history wasn't just complicated. It was historically unprecedented. 7 marriages to 6 different men. She married Richard Burton twice, created a web of relationships so scandalous they changed how America viewed divorce, remarriage, and celebrity itself. "I'm not taking too many chances," Taylor once joked about her multiple marriages. "I'm marrying them one at a time." Her first husband, Hotel Air Conrad, Nicky Hilton Jr., lasted just 205 days before Taylor ended things, claiming physical abuse and alcoholism. She was just 18 and already discovering that fairy tale weddings rarely led to fairy tale marriages. Husband number 2, British actor Michael Wilding, was 20 years older than her. It's a pattern of seeking father figures that would repeat throughout her life. Their marriage produced 2 sons, but collapsed under the weight of her skyrocketing fame and his fading career. Her third marriage to producer Mike Todd brought real happiness but ended in tragedy when Todd's private plane crashed in New Mexico in 1958. Taylor, who had been battling illness, had planned to be on that flight. A twist of fate that haunted her for decades. What followed was the scandal that would define her public image forever. Her affair with Eddie Fisher, who was married to America's sweetheart, Debbie Reynolds. The public angrily turned against Taylor, calling her a homewrecker and sex goddess gone bad. When she married Fisher after his divorce, theater owners in the Midwest actually boycotted her films on moral grounds. Yet even this scandal was nothing compared to what happened next. While filming Cleopatra in 1962, Taylor began a passionate affair with co-star Richard Burton, both married to others at the time. The Vatican publicly condemned their relationship as erotic vagrancy. The U.S. government considered banning them from entering the country on grounds of moral turpitude. "I don't remember much about Cleopatra," Burton later confessed. "I was too busy watching Elizabeth's breasts." Their following marriages, 1964 to 1974 and 1975 to 1976, became the template for modern celebrity media coverage, explosive fights in public, fancy reconciliations, and Burton's infamous gift-giving that included the 33.19-carat Krupp diamond and the 1.1 million Taylor Burton diamond. Husbands 6 and 7, politician John Warner and construction worker Larry Fortensky, whom she met in rehab, proved less dramatic but no more lasting. By the time she divorced Fortensky in 1996, Taylor had spent most of her life legally bound. 2 men who ultimately couldn't contain her oversized personality. "I've been through it all, baby," she once reflected. "I'm Mother Courage." And indeed, despite the romantic chaos, Taylor's toughness was perhaps her most remarkable quality, especially when facing the health battles that would eventually claim her life. Cheating death, Taylor's miraculous survival, and final decline. Elizabeth Taylor's relationship with death was nearly as complicated as her relationships with men. Throughout her life, she faced death with a frequency that seemed almost supernatural. leading many to believe she was either cursed or blessed with extraordinary toughness. Her first brush with death came in 1961, when she got pneumonia so bad that doctors performed an emergency surgery to save her life. The procedure left a permanent scar on her neck that she never tried to hide, wearing it instead as a badge of survival. "I've been dead once already," she later remarked. "It's very liberating." Just years later, while filming Cleopatra, she battled a mysterious illness that nearly stopped production of what was then the most expensive movie ever made. Studio executives reportedly took out insurance policies specifying what would happen if their star died mid-filming. It's a scenario that seemed entirely possible as her weight dropped to 98 pounds. The most shocking incident came in 1997 when doctors discovered and removed a harmless brain tumor, a procedure that left her temporarily unable to walk or speak clearly rather than hide away. Taylor allowed herself to be photographed in a wheelchair, refusing to hide her weakness. "I'm not afraid of death," she once told a reporter. "I've seen it, faced it, and I know it's coming for me eventually. We've been circling each other for years." Her final decline began in 2004 when she announced she had heart failure, a condition that would get progressively worse despite multiple surgeries and experimental treatments. In her last years, Taylor was rarely seen in public, confined primarily to a wheelchair and dependent on around-the-clock medical care. When death finally claimed her on March 23, 2011, at age 79, the world mourned not just a movie star, but a woman who had survived challenges that would have destroyed most people. Per her specific instructions, she arrived 15 minutes late to her own funeral, a final dramatic gesture from a woman who had always lived life on her own terms. "The problem with people who have no vices," she once observed, "is that generally you can be pretty sure they're going to have some pretty annoying virtues." Elizabeth Taylor had her share of both and made no apologies for either. The amazing fortune inside Taylor's $600 million empire. While the world focused on Elizabeth Taylor's marriages and movies, she was quietly building one of Hollywood's greatest fortunes, an empire so huge it continues making millions years after her death. At the time of her passing, Taylor's wealth was valued at between $600 million and $1 billion, making her one of the wealthiest self-made women in entertainment history. The most surprising part, most of her wealth came not from acting, but from her business ventures, particularly her pioneering celebrity fragrance empire. Her first perfume, Elizabeth Taylor's Passion, launched in 1987, was initially dismissed as a vanity project. It went on to make over $70 million in yearly sales. Her follow-up fragrance, White Diamonds, became the most successful celebrity perfume of all time, making more than $1.5 billion in revenue since its launch. "I'm a survivor, a living example of what people can go through and survive," Taylor once said. She might have added, "and profit from." Taylor's jewelry collection alone was valued at $150 million. The most valuable private collection in the world, the legendary Taylor Burton diamond, purchased by Richard Burton for $1.1 million in 1969, about $8.8 million today, was sold after their second divorce for $5 million, with Taylor using the money to build a hospital in Botswana. "My mother says, I didn't open my eyes for 8 days after I was born, but when I did, the first thing I saw was an engagement ring. I was hooked." Taylor once joked about her famous jewelry obsession. Beyond perfumes and jewels, Taylor built a real estate portfolio spanning California, London, New York, and Switzerland. Her art collection included works by Vincent van Gogh, Claude Monet, and Andy Warhol, the latter creating his famous portrait series of Taylor that later sold for millions at auction. Perhaps most impressively, Taylor negotiated one of Hollywood's first profit-sharing agreements for her role in Cleopatra. receiving 10% of the film's gross rather than just a salary. A revolutionary business move Thoughtsmail stars still cite as groundbreaking. In her final act of financial brilliance, Taylor directed that 40% of her wealth go to AIDS research through the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, ensuring her fortune would continue making positive impact long after her death, while also creating big tax advantages for her heirs. "I've been lucky all my life," Taylor once reflected. "Everything was handed to me. Looks, fame, wealth, honors, love. I rarely had to fight for anything." Yet behind that characteristic modesty lay one of Hollywood's smartest business minds. A woman who turned fame into a financial empire that rivals any in entertainment history. The AIDS Crusade. Taylor found purpose beyond stardom. While most remember Elizabeth Taylor for her films, Husbands, or Jewels, her most lasting legacy may be her pioneering AIDS activism. Work that began when most celebrities wouldn't dare associate with the stigmatized disease. In the early 1980s, as friends in Hollywood began dying from a mysterious illness, Taylor became one of the first major celebrities to publicly confront the crisis. "I could no longer take a passive role as I watched my friends suffer in silence," Taylor later explained. Her dedication wasn't casual activism, but a full-scale commitment that would consume the final decades of her life. In 1985, when her dear friend Rock Hudson died of AIDS-related complications, Taylor's response was immediate and unprecedented, at a time when President Reagan had not yet publicly said the word AIDS. Taylor organized the first major fundraiser for the disease, raising over $1 million in a single night and forcing Hollywood to confront an issue many preferred to ignore. Her activism reached new heights in 1991 when she founded the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, eventually raising over $270 million for research and patient care. More importantly, she used her unmatched fame to humanize a disease that had been covered in fear and misinformation. "I will not be silenced, and I will not give up, and I will not be ignored," she declared before Congress in 1992, demanding increased funding for AIDS research. Her testimony helped secure passage of the Ryan White Care Act, which still provides funding for AIDS treatment today. Perhaps most remarkably, Taylor regularly visited AIDS patients in hospitals when many medical professionals were still wearing hazmat suits out of misplaced fear. Photos of her hugging patients helped fight the cruel misconception that the disease could be transmitted through casual contact. Elizabeth didn't just lend her name to the cause, she gave it her soul. Served a long-time AIDS activist. She understood that her celebrity could open doors that remained closed to the rest of us. In her final years, as her own health failed, Taylor continued, directing her foundation's work from her bedside, insisting that the fight continue even after she was gone. Her will specified that 40% of her estate's royalties and ongoing income be directed to AIDS research, ensuring her work would continue funding breakthroughs long after her death. For a woman often criticized for excess and self-indulgence, this final chapter revealed a different Elizabeth Taylor, one who recognized that her extraordinary fame gave her both the platform and the responsibility to fight for those whose voices went unheard. "I'm not interested in what anyone else thinks," she once declared. "I know what is right, and I know what is wrong." The final days inside Taylor's last battle. Elizabeth Taylor's final chapter was written in pain and increasing isolation, a period rarely discussed in documentaries celebrating her glamorous life, as heart failure gradually claimed her body. The once vibrant icon retreated to her Bel Air mansion, where a medical team transformed sections into a private hospital. "I'm not afraid of death," she told a visitor in her final year. "I've been there before." By 2010, Taylor's daily routine had become a grueling medical regimen, breathing treatments 4 times daily, physical therapy sessions she increasingly resisted, a wheelchair she hated using, but could no longer avoid. Her legendary beauty remained remarkably intact, those purple eyes still striking. But her body was failing at an accelerating pace. Visitors during this period described a woman determined to maintain dignity despite deteriorating health. She insisted on full makeup and jewelry, even for medical appointments. Her bedroom, later left untouched in the abandoned mansion, was decorated with photos spanning her remarkable life, creating what one visitor called a museum of memories. She could visit without leaving bed. The most touching aspect of Taylor's final days was her determination to make up with those she had hurt. She reached out to former daughter-in-law Carrie Fisher, with whom she'd had a complicated relationship. She exchanged letters with Debbie Reynolds, finally putting to rest the scandal that had defined both their lives decades earlier. "I've made peace with my enemies," she told a friend. "Now I'm trying to make peace with myself." As her condition worsened in early 2011, Taylor made a final characteristic decision. She refused additional surgical interventions, choosing instead to face death on her own terms. "No more tubes," she reportedly told doctors. "I've been poked and prodded enough for several lifetimes." On March 23, 2011, surrounded by her 4 children in a hospital room filled with gardenias, her favorite flower, Elizabeth Taylor, took her final breath. True to form, she had left specific instructions for her funeral, including the request that she be late to her own service. The procession was delayed by 15 minutes at her instruction. A final dramatic gesture from a woman who had always understood the power of an entrance. Perhaps the most revealing detail came from her death certificate. Under occupation, the document listed a single word: actress, for all her other roles. Humanitarian, businesswoman, celebrity. Taylor identified to the end with the craft that had first brought her to the world's attention 8 decades earlier. "Problem with people who have no vices," she once observed, "is that you can be pretty. Sure, they're going to have some pretty annoying virtues." Elizabeth Taylor had her share of both and left the world richer for having embraced life in all its complicated fullness. The legacy, what Elizabeth Taylor leaves behind as the dust settles on Elizabeth Taylor's extraordinary life. The abandoned mansions slowly crumbling, the 7 marriages long ended, the $600 million fortune carefully distributed. What remains is a legacy far more complex than mere celebrity. Taylor wasn't just famous, she redefined what fame itself meant. Before her, stars were largely controlled by studios. Their images, carefully manufactured, their private lives hidden behind publicist-approved facades. Taylor shattered that model, living openly, loving recklessly, and forcing America to deal with a woman who refused to apologize for her desires or her mistakes. "I've been through it all, baby," she once declared. "I'm Mother Courage."